Welcome back. This is the second episode of Lost in Exclusivity. Today, we're going to be focusing on From Software's first title in its action RPG series of Lost Kingdoms. This is that one game you played years ago and really loved, but then quickly moved on and forgot it ever existed. This is that game. I remember picking this up at a local trading post shortly after it was released and then becoming obsessed with it. Every conversation about video games, I would find a way to bring it up. Any friend that asked me what game they should try, I would find a way to point them straight at Lost Kingdoms. But as time passed and newer games were being released, this game just kinda faded out of my mind where I totally forgot about it until about 2 weeks ago. I was at a secondhand store and over in the Gamecube section sat this forgotten gem. Lost Kingdoms was developed by From Software. Nowadays, they're pretty popular for their Soul series, but long before that was ever a concept, From Software was going against the grain, making games that they wanted to play. They created the numerous Kingsfield games, and they also created the Xbox exclusive Metal Wolf Chaos. This game is set in a dreary medieval world where a mysterious black fog is overtaking the lands, consuming town after town, and the princess is given an artifact known as the Runestone, which grants her the ability to use these cards to summon monsters. And yes, this technically is a card game, but not in the traditional sense. I know when you hear those words, card game, it conjures certain visions of slow, boring, and complicated gameplay, but that's not the case here. I'm almost 100% sure the fact this game is known as a card game is why it's relatively forgotten, but Lost Kingdoms is unlike any game you've ever played. It is an action RPG through and through. That being said, let me explain how things work. Each level is set in a 3D environment, but this is the early 2000s where the game industry didn't really understand third-person camera control. So the game's camera can only be cycled through 4 different angles. It's a slight hassle, but it can be overlooked. You're given 30 cards per each deck, and you can customize them as you see fit. When a battle starts, 4 cards are drawn out of your deck and mapped to your 4 face buttons. There are different types of cards that will do different things when chosen. You have weapon cards that, when summoned, will act as a single swing of a weapon. They can be used a couple times before you burn through the whole card. You have trap cards that can be placed in an area, and when a demon walks near it, your monster will appear, dealing massive damages. There are summon cards that can be used once and do large amounts of damage if aimed properly. And lastly, there are independent cards that, when used, will summon a monster to the map, and it will run around battling until the card runs out of power. Every monster you battle in the game can be captured by throwing a card at an injured monster. Early on, you meet an old woman with the ridiculous name of Gerd, and she owns her own card shop that has more uses than you think. Throughout the game, you can come here and talk to her, and she will give you side quests that will unlock new hidden stages. You can also buy and sell cards here, and some of the more rare cards can only be bought from her. But there are 2 other options that will have you coming back again and again. Every time you use a card in battle, it acquires experience points, and these points can be used at the card shop. The transform card option at Gerd's is very useful. All of the experience points acquired can be used to evolve cards into stronger forms. The last option at Gerd's is the ability to clone your cards. With all of the battling mechanics out of the way, let's talk about the levels. The stages are very linear, and even with the unlockable side quests, this is a fairly short game. Some of the stages have minor puzzles, but most of the time, you should be able to find your way through without any hang-ups. This can be a difficult game, but not in the right way. At the beginning of each stage, you can customize your deck of 30 cards, and while going through a stage, you'll slowly burn through your deck going through battles. But the stages are filled with hidden cards that you can find and replenish your deck before you meet the boss of the stage. But let's say you die and you're sent back to the main map. You can adjust your deck beforehand to focus on monster weaknesses, but all of the cards you found in your first run through of the stage are gone, and you're forced to adapt by either running from the battles, which costs you a random card from your deck, or by finding a rare monster that replenishes a small amount of your used cards when summoned in battle. I love this game, and even I know this is a huge misstep by the developers. After you beat a level, you are unable to return until you beat the game first. This is an RPG that focuses on catching monsters and gaining experience points. Not allowing someone to return to a level seems like a glitch at first. It's even more noticeable when you meet a character in the game that wants you to search every level, collecting hidden fairies in exchange for rare cards. I don't know how From Software thought this was a good idea, but it wasn't. Now, I know it might seem like I'm being hard on this game, and I am, but it's only because I love it so much. This game may be labeled as a card game, and it may have been forgotten about way before it had its time to shine, but it's a game that has great graphics, a damn good battle system, and overall is one of the best forgotten gems. So if you ever find it on a shelf in your secondhand store, I urge you to drop down some money and enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and remember, you heard it here through the Gamevine.